Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to a new video. So this is going to be my first fix of my F80 M3. Now I know the title of the video is not broken, but there is a small thing that did come up that is actually a pretty common issue that I'm going to resolve. I figured I'd walk you guys through the fix instead of going to a dealer or an independent shop to get it done. I'll walk you through how to do it in case anybody has a similar problem, a similar issue, so you guys can fix it in your garage by yourself for less than 200 bucks. So as you guys know, I bought this car completely stock, not a single modification on it. And since then, I have done quite a few things to make it my own, kind of modified it and created the vision of my perfect F80 M3. Now, maybe about 3 weeks to 4 weeks ago, I started noticing a little rattle, kind of metal on metal noise. And I was like, what is that? What could it possibly be? So I started going down the rabbit hole of looking at everything that I installed, kind of going through and seeing if there's anything loose, anything rattling. So after doing my diagnostics and kind of going around looking at all the parts I installed, seeing if there's anything loose, anything contacting one another, I just couldn't find or pinpoint the actual noise. So what I started doing was doing some research on the internet, looking on the forums and trying to find somebody that had a similar issue. And I ended up finding somebody, or finding quite a few people, that had this exact noise. I'm going to put up a little clip so you guys can hear exactly what I'm talking about. So that metal on metal rattle that you hear click on, that is actually the belt tensioner. It's pretty self-explanatory of what it is. It actually creates tension. It puts pressure on the belt system, the belt drive system, to create a nice tight fit. It actually keeps the belt on all the pulleys and everything to keep everything operating smoothly. And over time, the spring in the tensioner can loosen and it can also get weak. And what that actually can do is relieve some of the tension off the belts, and the actual tensioner kind of vibrates back and forth, creating a metal on metal kind of rattle noise. It was bothering the heck out of me. I cannot stand noises and rattles that are not supposed to be there. So I really kind of went down the rabbit hole to find exactly what this was and get it resolved. Thankfully, I was able to find a resolution, and that is actually to replace the belt tensioner. It's going to be a little hard to show you with everything on the car right now, but I'll get some light on there so I can give you a little bit of an idea. So if we put some light right down here underneath the oil filter, you can see the tensioner right there. So see that little bolt sticking out, and that is the tensioner, that little metal oval right there. It just bolts right up to the block, and then there's a wheel down there, a little pulley in a way, and it puts tension on the belt. So that is actually what we're going to be replacing. Now I do have to remove the intake and the strut to gain access. You actually can remove the fan as well if you want to, but I've seen a video and I've seen people do it with the fan on. So we're gonna try to remove the least amount as possible to get this job done. Now the colder months are right around the corner, and all I want to do is drive this car, but thankfully I cannot drive it right now because we actually just got our driveway redone. So this car is actually stuck in the garage for about a week or so. So this is the perfect time to get this done during the downtime when I'm not able to drive it. I'm not so rushed and everything. I can take my time. So I will go over all the parts and all the tools that you need to get this done, but I picked everything up from FCP Euro. They're an amazing company. Their warranty replacement, if your part breaks that you purchase for them, they will replace it for free for a lifetime. So that is pretty amazing. So if this thing ever fails in the future, so all I got to do is show my invoice and obviously proof of purchase, and they'll send me out a brand new one free of charge. So pretty amazing. That is one of the reasons why I went to them. They're all genuine BMW parts, so it's not like we're getting anything shoddy or anything aftermarket like that. They are genuine BMW OEM parts. So we're going to get this knocked out so we can get the car back on the road and we don't have to worry about that rattling and any potential issues that may cause. Now, very quick before we get into it, if your car has higher mileage, like 50 or 60,000 miles, they actually suggest replacing the belts, replacing the pulleys and all that stuff as well. So if you're up there in mileage and you're starting to realize your belt tensioner is starting to make that noise, I definitely recommend doing all the belts and everything, kind of doing a full refresh of it all. For me, since this only has 20,000 miles and the belt tensioner is the only thing that I see kind of creating a little bit of a noise, that is the only thing I'm going to be replacing. The belts, I did an inspection of all of them. Everything looks perfect and pretty much brand new. So I'm not going to change any of that. All I'm going to do is change the tensioner. All right, guys, so this is everything that you're going to need to get this job done. So we got the belt tensioner right here. Again, this is an OEM piece. There is the part number if you are interested. I also picked up a new bolt, not necessary, but this thing was only like $6 or $7. So I figured might as well, because the other one has 20,000 miles on it, 5 years old. figure we might as well throw that on. There is the part number as well if you are interested. Now, as for tools, you're going to need two different things, one of which you're going to need a T60 Torx bit. And the reason for that, or what we're going to use it on, is right here. What that's actually going to do is you're going to put the T60 in there, and you're going to actually pull the wrench. And what that's actually going to do, you're able to pull this whole arm away from the belt so it releases tension. Then you're able to get it off after you unscrew this bolt. Now, the last socket that we're going to need is a 3/8 inch socket. You're going to need one like that so it fits on the hex bolt here. Now, I may need some other smaller and longer extensions. We'll see when we get there, but that is everything that you need to get the job done. Obviously, you're going to need some 13 millimeters to take off the strut and a flathead to remove the intake. But otherwise, that's it. Oh, also, you're gonna need a 10 millimeter to take that bolt off. Obviously, mine's a little bit different. It's actually a 5 millimeter Allen. But otherwise, that's the tools that you're gonna need to get this job done. So let me go ahead, remove the strut, remove the driver's side intake. Then once we get that stuff out of the way, I'll show you exactly where the tensioner is, and we can get this new tensioner on the car. All right, so we got the intake removed, the strut bar. So now we have full access to the belt tensioner right here. Now, there's still a few lines and hoses in the way, so it's still going to be difficult, or it's going to be limited space at least, but as you can see, I'm able to at least get to it. You can get to it from this side. You can actually get to it from this side. Also, something I recommend is put a microfiber towel, kind of stuff it in the intake snorkel here, because you don't want to drop anything in there. So just a precautionary thing. But first thing we're actually going to do is take tension off the current belt tensioner. So we're actually going to take our T60 bit and we're going to lower it down there. And if you can kind of see the Torx little hole right there, we're going to slip it in and pull the wrench to the driver's side. And what that's actually going to do is lift the tensioner, the little wheel, off the belt. And then we're going to take a drill bit and actually slide it into this hole. So this hole right now is kind of down here. With the tension on it, you can actually see it right there. So when we pull the tension to the right, it's going to lift this wheel up, and we're going to lock it into place into that little kind of notch right there. So when we lift it up, this hole is going to line up with that. Slide the drill bit in, so it's going to keep the tension off the belt while we are removing that bolt right there. Let me go ahead and do that, and I'll show you what it looks like. Oh boy, so that actually took quite a bit to get this wrench in the correct spot because of the hoses in the way and everything. And I also end up using a screw. The bit, I just couldn't finagle it in there with the hard line right here. So I got a kind of nice tight fitting screw right here. So now, as you can see on the belts right here, the tension is loose. So now what we're actually gonna do is take our 3/8 inch socket, get this unscrewed. I'm gonna break it loose with the wrench and probably just do it with my fingers because there's not much room over here to get to it. But once we get that off, we can finagle it through this way. I'll show you exactly how to do that. And then once we get it off, we can compare and see just kind of what was wrong with this one, what was loose, and then we can go ahead and install the new one. So let me go ahead and get this bolt out and we can go to the next step. All right, so the bolt is out. This is the one that was just in there, and I was able to get it out. And as you can see, the whole belt tensioner is kind of just hanging out there right now. I can kind of move it around. So now, I guess I don't want to say the hardest part, but the most, I guess, frustrating part is getting this out of here because of everything in the way. So what we're actually going to do is slide it this way. Get you some light on there. Slide it towards the intake snorkel, and then you're going to have to kind of move this out of the way, and you get some access over on this side. So you can see a kind of a little hole right here. So we're going to snake it through and hopefully get it out with no problem. All right, so we got the new one and the old one side by side. Now, looking at it, just kind of going around to see if there's any problems or anything that I can see up close. Nothing really standing out. The only thing I'm really noticing is some wear and tear on the pulley right here, or the wheel. nothing crazy, but there's no signs of wear on the outside. Everything looks pretty the same, pretty good. I mean, when comparing side by side, it literally looks exactly the same because it is the same part. But if you notice on the inside, this is a rubber bushing. Same thing on here. Obviously, this one is clean because it's brand new. But my suspicion is that the rubber gasket here, the rubber bushing, and the springs inside is what was starting to fail and causing that rattle back and forth because it wasn't able to kind of hold the tension when the belts or the car was on. Again, so it's really not that expensive to get this done. It's kind of more of a peace of mind thing. Hopefully this solves the issue, but I'm pretty confident that this was the problem. This was the noise that I was hearing because I was watching this thing, and every time this kind of clicked on or started moving, that's when the noise kind of started coming out. So, all right, now we just got to finagle this piece back into that same little spot. So it should be pretty easy. So I heard this pin on the new one gets in the way a little bit, but we will see. We'll try to get it in there. I would swap it over to a smaller screw like that, but to be honest, this thing is under so much load right now, under so much tension, that if you do take this off, it's going to either hurt you or cause some damage to this. So I'm going to try to keep the pin in there. If not, we'll figure out a new way to get this pin out and put a screw like this in here because it's a little bit easier to handle. But let's go ahead. Let's try to finagle this back into the same spot and get it in position. Now, if you look, there is a notch on the right side of it. That notch is actually going to go down in there. So you can kind of see the notch that I'm talking about. Sorry, it's kind of tight in there. It's actually right in there, that little notch right there, that little divot. That is where this tab on the pulley, or sorry, the tensioner is going to go. So it's simply just going to go into place like this. And then once you take that pin out, the actual arm of the tensioner is going to go down and put tension back on the belt. So let's go ahead. Let's get this back into place. Hopefully you don't run into any issues. Something to note, just watch out for these lines because obviously they are silicone. You don't want to pierce them because you're going to have some problems. So be careful of those when you're kind of getting everything in. Oh my God, what an absolute pain in the butt. There is absolutely no room, but I managed to get it in there. I didn't put the bolt in yet. One recommendation is, see the pin right there? I actually ended up bending it towards the shape of the actual tensioner. Like everybody said, any video, any write-up that I saw, that pin is too long. It gets in the way of the hoses here. It's just an absolute, that thing just really holds everything up. So if you bend it down, you know, to the actual shape of the tensioner here, it's much easier to maneuver, and you don't run the risk of puncturing one of the lines right here. So bend that 100%. I ended up having to take it back out and do that off on the workbench, but we got it in. So now what we're actually going to do is get the new bolt in right here. I'm going to start threading it in with my hand. I don't want to use a wrench yet because I want to make sure that the threads are going in nice and smooth. The threads that it's going into is aluminum, so you want to be really careful. And then once we get that done, we can torque it down properly. Man, my hands are killing me on the backs just from finagling my hands through all the oil lines and hard lines and everything. Whew, okay, I'm glad that's done. That honestly was the hardest part. And also, before you put the tension back on, I'll mention this again. You want to make sure all the belts are in the proper position. Like right now, I can see this one is not really sitting right, so I'm going to pull it over right there. There we go. So that's good. But I'm going to do a final inspection as well before I put the tension back on there. But yeah, let's go ahead and get that bolt in, and we can wrap this up very, very shortly. I am so glad I got that back in there. All right, so the torque spec on that bolt that we just replaced is 38 Newton meters, which comes out to around 28 foot-pounds if you want to do it that way. So don't do any more, don't do any less. This is aluminum, as I mentioned, so if you do it too much, you can strip the threads and you will not have a good time. So use the torque spec, get that all torqued down. I'm going to do that, and then we can go ahead and make sure all the belts and everything is on the way it should be. And then we can go ahead and remove the tension off the little pin in there, take the pin out, and we should be good. But let me go ahead and get everything tightened down, and then I'll show you how to remove the pin. All right, so we got the bolt torque down to 28 foot-pounds or 38 Newton meters, so we are good to go. Now we're actually going to remove that pin. So I got the socket, the T60, in the little spot right there. So what I'm going to do is, again, pull it towards the driver's side, and then it's going to release that tension on the pin. I can slide the pin out, and it's going to put tension back on the belt. So I could already tell the tension on this is way stronger than the old one. So that's a good sign, because it sounds like this tension obviously was wearing out. So that's promising. Sounds like I'm going to be able to actually fix this. So let me go ahead and get that done. Pull the pin out, and obviously check all your belts, which I already did. And then we can pull that pin out and we should be good to go. Alrighty, so the tension is back on the belt. So if you come over to the belt, you can sort of see it's a little dark. A lot of tension. On the old one, the tension on here was just, I mean, it was on there, obviously, it wasn't falling off, but it definitely was weak. So I'm 99.9% sure that my issue is resolved. So yeah, not the funnest job, but we got it done. It reminded me a lot of the spark plugs on the EJ25 on the STI. It's a very simple task, just like this, but with everything in the way, it makes it way harder. You guys know the STI, the spark plugs are on the side of the motor due to the boxer style, and the frame rail is right where you need to get. So it's more just a matter of getting the right tools and getting the right angles and everything. Doing this reminded me a lot of doing that. So I'm happy it's done. I'm gonna go ahead, clean everything up, get it all back together, and then I'm gonna do a start, make sure everything is good, which I'm very confident it is. But yeah, let me go ahead, get everything cleaned up, get the engine bay put back together, and we'll go ahead, start the car up, make sure everything is good, then we can wrap this video up. All right, guys, got everything put back together, so we're gonna go ahead and do I don't wanna say a first start, but we're gonna do a start, make sure everything is good, do a little bit of an inspection. Let me go ahead and do that, cross my fingers. I'm pretty sure everything is good, so yeah, let's start it up. All right, guys, car is on. I just wanted to kind of let it warm up a little bit, because that's usually when the noise kind of happened. Once I gave it a little gas and the actual engine started moving, that's when it started making that noise. But so far so good. I gave it a few small revs just to kind of test it out, and I'm pretty sure we are in the clear. So if we can kind of see down there, the belt is going, obviously, and the tensioner is right down there. Sorry, it's very, very hard to show you, and the engine's kind of loud here, but everything seems to be okay, which is good. So it looks like we got the job done. So let me go ahead, shut this down, wrap things up, and we can close out the video. All right, guys, we are finished. Everything is cleaned up. I'm actually gonna hang on to this tensioner because I wanna see if I can take it apart someday and kind of play around with it to see what may have been the issue and kind of see if there's any worn springs or bushings or what have you. Obviously, it's going to be a little tough to get the screw out, but one day we'll see, and I may play around with it, so I'm going to hang on to that, throw it in the box, and throw it up on the kind of pile of boxes that I got going up over there. I just want to reiterate, I'm no mechanic. I'm not some special car person or anything like that. I'm just a simple car enthusiast, just like you guys. And doing stuff like this gives me anxiety as well. I'm never confident in my abilities, but I usually end up getting the job done properly. And I always end up saving myself so much money getting this done. I actually reached out to a dealer. I reached out to a M-specific shop, independent shop, just to kind of get some quotes, get an idea of what it would cost to replace something like that. And they were giving me like $500-600 to get that done, obviously including the part, which is around $200 or so. But honestly, $500-600 to replace that, and that took me about an hour or so to do that on my own. I feel super accomplished, and I'm happy that I was able to not only diagnose what the issue was, but I got the fix done by myself for way cheaper. So I highly encourage people to try to do that on your own. So just a word to the wise, if you end up hearing that clicking, that rattling that I showed you at the beginning of the video, and you have an M2, M3, M4 with the S55, go ahead, check your belt tensioner. If you hear that noise and you see the belt tensioner wobbling back and forth, that is 100% the issue. So go ahead, order it up from FCP Euro. It's under $200 to get everything with the bolt and the tool that you need, the T60, and you can knock this out in your garage in about an hour and a half or so, and you can be on your merry way. So that's gonna do it for this one, guys. I'm gonna leave everything I use in this video in the description below. So if you wanna get this job done, or you have to get this job done, all you gotta do is click the links and you can purchase everything that I got to get it done properly. So that's gonna do it for this one, guys. If you have any questions at all, be sure to ask them below. But in the meantime, keep it clean, keep it simple, I'll catch you guys in the next one.